The Lahun Pyramid Mystery. Picture this. You are standing in front of what might just be the most precisely crafted piece of granite work that has ever emerged from ancient Egypt. We're talking about tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch. That's accuracy so mind-boggling that even with today's technology, we'd struggle to match it. And here is the kicker. It was carved from a single massive block of granite over 4,000 years ago, possibly much older. What you're about to discover will challenge everything you thought you knew about ancient Egyptian capabilities. Because buried 30 feet beneath a crumbling mud brick pyramid, there sits an object so perfectly engineered that when the legendary archaeologist Flinders Petrie first laid eyes on it in the 1890s, he called it perhaps the finest piece of mechanical work ever executed in such a hard and difficult material. But here's where it gets really interesting. This isn't just about incredible ancient craftsmanship. There are mysteries within mysteries here that'll leave you questioning the entire timeline of human technological development. And I am going to show you exactly why the popular theory that these granite marvels were somehow melted down and recast simply does unhold water when you examine the evidence properly. So settle in, because we're about to journey deep underground, beneath one of Egypt's most overlooked pyramids, to explore what might be the most precisely engineered mystery from the ancient world. Let me take you to a place called Lahun. Now, you might not have heard of it. It is not as famous as Giza or Saqqara, but it sits in a rather special location. Picture the traditional pyramid belt of Egypt, stretching from the Great Pyramid down through Saqqara and Dashur, then continuing south to meet. Lahun sits right at the edge of this ancient corridor, positioned strategically near the entrance to what the ancients called the Fayum. The Fayum is this remarkable leaf-shaped oasis that spreads out to the west of the Nile, a green sanctuary in the desert with Lake Moeris nestled in its northwestern corner. From satellite imagery, it looks like nature's own masterpiece carved into the landscape. The ancient Egyptians had a name for Lahun that literally meant mouth or opening of the canal. They understood its significance as a gateway to this fertile region. This area is absolutely riddled with ancient sites. There's Hawara, where the legendary Great Labyrinth once stood, a structure so complex that ancient writers described it as more impressive than the pyramids themselves. There's Me, with its distinctive broken-down pyramid that some attribute to Sneferu, or perhaps his father Huni, from the transition between the 3rd and 4th dynasties. Each of these sites holds its own secrets, but none quite like what we're about to explore at Lahun. Now, when you first approach Lahun today, what catches your eye is the remains of this mud brick pyramid. It's a sad sight, really. Slowly crumbling back into the earth that formed it. This structure gets linked to Pharaoh Senusret II, also known as Hepakea, who ruled during the 12th dynasty of the Middle Kingdom around 80-90 BCE. That makes this pyramid at least 4,000 years old, though recent discoveries in the area suggest some parts of this site are considerably more ancient than that. You can still spot a few large white limestone blocks scattered throughout the mud brick structure, ghostly reminders of what this pyramid once looked like. Originally, it would have been completely cased in brilliant white limestone, gleaming in the desert sun like so many other Egyptian monuments. But it suffered the same fate as countless other ancient structures. The notorious Ramesses II of the 19th dynasty stripped away all that beautiful limestone for his own building projects. Typical, really, ancient recycling at its most ruthless. What's left today is just the internal mud brick core, weathering away grain by grain under the relentless desert conditions. But honestly, the real treasure isn't what's above ground. It's what lies hidden 30 feet below, carved directly into the bedrock beneath the pyramid. In late 2020, I had the extraordinary opportunity to explore these underground chambers as part of a research expedition. We were a group of adventurous souls who made the journey to Egypt despite all the challenges that year brought. The experience of descending into these tunnels and chambers was absolutely unforgettable, and the footage you'll see comes from that incredible journey into the depths. The modern exploration of this site really begins with Sir William Flinders Petrie, one of archaeology's true giants. Petrie spent the better part of 2 years working in this region between 1888 and 1890, then returned for additional excavations around 1914. The man was methodical, precise, and absolutely relentless in his pursuit of archaeological truth. Without his work, we might never have discovered what lies beneath Lahun. This site has only recently been opened to the public in 2019, after extensive renovations to make the underground sections safe for visitors. So when we descended into those tunnels, we were among the first members of the public ever to witness these wonders firsthand. The entrance itself is quite dramatic. You begin your descent down a shaft that plunges deep into the bedrock solid limestone that has been there for millions of years. The walls around you tell the story of geological time, layer upon layer of ancient seabed compressed into stone. About halfway down this southernmost shaft, there's this peculiar little chamber with alcoves carved into the walls. Everything's been lined with what appears to be extremely fine limestone work. The purpose of this halfway station remains a complete mystery, but the craftsmanship is remarkable. What's fascinating is just how riddled this entire area is, with shafts, tombs, and underground structures. The sheer number of these excavations is one reason it took Petrie so long to find the actual entrance to the main chambers beneath the pyramid. But there's another reason, one that goes against everything we expect from Egyptian pyramid design. You see, almost every pyramid in Egypt has its entrance on the northern side. It's like an unwritten rule of Egyptian architecture, but not here at Lahun. The entrance lies to the south of the structure, completely breaking with tradition. This unusual placement was part of what made Petrie's discovery so challenging. Picture the scene. Petrie had been working at the site for months, systematically exploring shaft after shaft, finding tombs and chambers, but nothing that led directly beneath the pyramid itself. He was actually preparing to leave the site when he decided to investigate just one more shaft opening on the southern side. That decision changed everything. What Petrie discovered when he finally broke through was this broad, tall tunnel ascending slightly toward the pyramid. It's quite an impressive passage, wide enough for several people to walk side by side, tall enough that you don't feel claustrophobic. As you follow this tunnel toward the pyramid, there's this sense of anticipation building. You're walking in the footsteps of people who lived thousands of years ago, heading toward chambers that have remained virtually unchanged since they were sealed. At the end of this tunnel, Petrie found 2 chambers that would revolutionize our understanding of ancient Egyptian precision engineering. One chamber is beautifully cased in limestone. Fine, precise work that speaks to incredible skill. But it's the second chamber that takes your breath away. This room is constructed entirely from granite walls, ceiling, everything. And it houses what might be the most precisely engineered granite object ever discovered from the ancient world. Now, here's something that puzzled Petrie immediately. When he measured this precision granite container, he realized it was far too large to have been moved through the shaft he'd used to enter the tunnel system. The geometry simply didn't work. So on his maps, he marked question marks at the other end of the passage, theorizing that there must have been another entrance, a mine builder, shaft, that would have allowed such a massive object to be installed. Petrie never actually excavated in that direction, But his intuition was spot on. There is indeed a main shaft further south, and that's how visitors enter the site today. It is a testament to Petrius' archaeological instincts that he could deduce the existence of this entrance purely from the logical requirements of the construction. As we make our way through the tunnel system today, it's worth mentioning some of the other discoveries that have been made in this area. There have been some absolutely stunning finds of ancient Egyptian artifacts, particularly jewelry from royal tombs. There was this incredible golden crown found in a princess's tomb, complete with the uraeus, that is the sacred cobra symbol you see on pharaonic crowns, and on the forehead of the Great Sphinx. These artifacts are undoubtedly beautiful and historically significant. But personally, while I appreciate the artistry and historical value of these golden treasures, I believe the real treasure at this site is something far more profound: the precision-carved granite container that sits in that granite chamber, waiting to challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. There's something else we need to discuss about the dating of this site. When Petri first discovered these chambers, he found part of a limestone stele that mentioned Pharaoh Senusret II. In Petri's time, this pharaoh was known by a different name, but the identification was clear enough. This discovery became the primary evidence for linking the entire site to the Middle Kingdom period. However, archaeology has continued at Lahun since Petri's time, and there have been some rather startling discoveries that complicate this timeline significantly. In 2010, additional tombs and burials were discovered near the site that had been legitimately dated back to the very first and second dynasties of ancient Egypt. We're talking about a time period that is potentially 1,000 years or more earlier than the Middle Kingdom attribution. This creates a fascinating puzzle. Are we looking at a site that was built during the Middle Kingdom and then used for earlier burials? Or are we perhaps looking at a much more ancient site that was later claimed and reused by Middle Kingdom pharaohs? The implications are quite significant for our understanding of the technological capabilities of different periods in Egyptian history. As we continue deeper into the tunnel system in our footage, we're now directly beneath the pyramid, about 30 feet down into solid bedrock. These are the chambers that Petri mapped so carefully in his drawings. The first room we encounter is that beautifully cased limestone chamber I mentioned. The stonework is absolutely exquisite, fitted together with incredible precision. But it's the second chamber that stops you in your tracks. This room is constructed entirely of granite, not just the walls, but the ceiling as well. And that ceiling is something special. It's arched, formed from carefully fitted granite slabs. Now, there is only one other location in Egypt that I am aware of with a similar arched granite ceiling. See if you can guess where that might be. I'll give you the answer a bit later. Before we focus on the main attraction, that incredible granite container, there is another puzzling feature worth mentioning. There's this tunnel that wraps around the central chamber, forming a complete loop. You can see it clearly on Petrius diagrams. It just circles around the main room and connects back to itself near the entrance. The purpose of this circular tunnel remains completely mysterious. Some people have tried to connect it to ancient Egyptian religious symbolism, linking it to the number 5 or 2 Osiris mythology. But honestly, it just appears to be a tunnel that goes around in a circle and then exits back into the main chamber. If this room ever had some original functional purpose beyond what we understand today, perhaps this tunnel served some role in that function. But I have to admit, I haven't got a clue what that might have been. This circular tunnel does provide us with a second entrance into the main chamber, and it is through this alternative entrance that you get your first proper look at the star of the show. this absolutely extraordinary precision-carved granite container that archaeologists have labeled as a sarcophagus. And here's where things get really interesting. When Petrie first discovered this container, it was exactly as we see it today. Completely empty. No inscriptions anywhere on its surface. No trace of any lid. No evidence that it had ever been used for any burial purpose. Just this magnificently crafted granite box sitting in its granite chamber, as mysterious as the day it was sealed. It is no exaggeration to say that this might well be the single most precisely carved granite object that has come down to us from ancient Egypt. The level of accuracy achieved in its construction is simply staggering, and it challenges everything we think we know about ancient manufacturing capabilities. One of the first things you notice about this container is that it appears to be it is not an optical illusion. The exterior height of the box actually changes by about 4 inches along its length. Yet remarkably, the interior walls of the cavity are cut perfectly square with the top surface, which is absolutely flat. The floor of the chamber itself is level, so the entire box appears to be leaning over at an angle. Now, this raises some intriguing questions. Was the box moved at some point within the room? That seems unlikely, given that it is far too large to fit through any of the doorways. Once it was in that chamber, it was there to stay. Was there originally something beneath the box that kept it level? Perhaps? Or was this deliberately actually an intentional design feature, serving some functional purpose we don't understand today? What is certain is that, given the incredible precision evident in every other aspect of this container's construction, this slope was definitely intentional. Nothing about this object appears to be accidental or haphazard, but it is worth noting that none of the other precision-carved containers found anywhere else in Egypt have this particular feature. The precision of this container becomes truly apparent only when you begin to measure it properly. We're talking about margins of error measured in thousandths of an inch. To put that in perspective, imagine taking a single inch and dividing it into 1,000 equal parts. That is the scale of accuracy we were dealing with here. The surfaces are flat too within a few of those tiny segments, and parallel surfaces maintain that relationship to the same incredible degree of precision. It's precision that's simply astounding. And it's certainly not something that could be achieved with crude hand tools like flint chisels or diorite pounding stones. The tools that mainstream archaeology suggests were used for such work. The surfaces of this container haven't even been polished like other examples we find elsewhere. They're simply ground so finely and so accurately that they appear perfectly smooth and flat. The interior corners of this container are equally remarkable. The radius of these internal corners is roughly equivalent to the tip of a ballpoint pen, incredibly tight and precise. This represents work that is an order of magnitude finer than even the incredible containers found in the surface, which are themselves marvels of ancient engineering. What's more, these tiny corner radii appear to be consistent throughout the container, not just on the inside corners, but also on the corners that exist underneath the lip on the exterior. When you consider that this entire container was carved from a single massive block of granite, and that a single mistake could have ruined the dimensions of the entire piece, it becomes almost impossible to believe this work was accomplished by some primitive culture using hand tools. If someone wants to claim that such work is possible with ancient techniques, there is really only one way to prove it. They need to replicate this type of work themselves. They need to achieve the internal corner radii, the flatness tolerances measured in thousandths of an inch, the perfect parallel relationships between surfaces, and they need to do it all using only the techniques they claim the ancients possessed. As far as I know, no one has ever even come close to achieving this level of precision using primitive hand tools. The challenge remains open for anyone who believes otherwise. There is another feature that adds even more complexity to this container's construction: that lip around the top edge. This lip introduces significantly more geometry into the manufacturing process, creating many additional corners and surfaces that all need to maintain the same incredible tolerances. It's truly remarkable engineering. The container has one more unique feature that I have unseen in any other examples. The edges around that lip are consistently It's a subtle detail, but it speaks to the incredible attention to detail that went into this object's creation. Interestingly, we see similar beveling on the edges of the granite blocks that make up the chamber walls themselves. When Flinders Petrie first discovered this container and began investigating its construction, he was absolutely astounded by what he found. He did his best to measure it accurately and report on just how precisely it appeared to be constructed, but he was limited by the measuring tools available in the 1890s. In my opinion, this artifact desperately needs to be studied with modern, laser-based, three-dimensional modeling tools and measured with contemporary surface roughness meters that are accurate down to the micron level. Unfortunately, as usual, this type of detailed technical analysis just isn't a priority for mainstream Egyptology. It's rather sad, really, because I'm certain that if Petrie had access to such modern tools, he would have used them enthusiastically to learn as much as possible about this incredible ancient object. Here's what Petrie wrote about this container in his 1891 publication, and I think his words capture the significance beautifully. He called it perhaps the finest piece of mechanical work ever executed in such a hard and difficult material. He noted that the form is quite unlike that of any other coffin known, having a wide lip all around the top. Petrie was particularly puzzled by what he called another strange peculiarity: the fact that the bottom varies in thickness, so, while the inside depth remains equal throughout, the outside depth slopes down nearly 4 inches from end to end. As he put it, the sides are cut square with the top and the floor is level, so the ends all lean over and the top slants. In short, the whole thing is tilted by standing on a sloping bottom. He described the surface as smooth ground to an impalpable fineness and most exquisitely flat. Then he gets into the specific measurements that demonstrate just how remarkable this precision really is. Along the top length of 106 inches, he found errors from a straight line averaging just 7/1000ths of an inch. On the ends, both measuring 50 inches long, the errors averaged only 4/1000ths of an inch. The parallelism between opposite surfaces was equally impressive. The north end measured 50.053 inches, while the south end measured 50.073 inches, a difference of just 1/50th of an inch across the entire 106-inch length of the container. Petrie also noted that the curvature of the main surfaces was almost nothing. Over a length of 82 inches, the east side showed a hollowing of 5/1000ths of an inch, while the west side bulged by 2/1000ths differences that Petrie admitted might well be within the margin of error of his measuring equipment. Perhaps most remarkably, Petrie recognized that achieving such precision required not just straightness, flatness, and parallelism, but also perfect accuracy of proportions between all the dimensions. As he put it, this is far more difficult and requires all the previous accuracies, and in addition, a truly divided scale and an irredeemable truth of work, since nothing can be corrected by removing more material. He concluded by calling it indeed a brilliant piece of skill in such an untractable material, and admitted that it would be necessary to level up the container and measure it more accurately when properly positioned, since doubtless some errors have come in the course of measuring it in its present slanting position. What's utterly remarkable about this passage is that Petrie is essentially admitting that the technology available to him in the 19th century was insufficient to accurately measure the precision of this ancient artifact, when he says the difference is probably covered by the errors of measurement. He's acknowledging that his instruments couldn't determine whether tiny variations were real or just measurement error. Think about that for a moment. Here we have an object that's at least 4,000 years old, possibly much older. And just 120 to 150 years ago, we didn't have technology accurate enough to properly measure it. Copper, chisels, and pounding stones, indeed. There's another factor worth considering about both this container and the chamber that houses it. They are very precisely aligned to the cardinal points of the compass. How exactly was this alignment achieved in antiquity? We're more than 25 feet down in solid bedrock here. There's no way to see the stars from this position. No way to take astronomical bearings. So, what technique can we attribute to these supposedly primitive ancient Egyptians to accomplish this feat? Was it just remarkable luck? Or is it yet another indication that there was far more sophisticated technology available in the distant past than we currently acknowledge? I certainly can't explain it satisfactorily, and I'd be very interested to hear any theories you might have. Now, before I explain why I do and believe this container, or any of the other granite works of Egypt, are made from geopolymers, or some form of ancient concrete, let's return to that arched granite ceiling I mentioned earlier. If you guessed that the other ancient Egyptian site with this feature is the Pyramid of Menkaure at Giza, then well done. Petrie himself noted the similarity between the chambers in these two structures, given that the Menkaure pyramid is generally attributed to the 4th dynasty. This architectural similarity raises some interesting questions about the dating of the Lahun site. Although personally, I suspect both of these constructions could be significantly older than their conventional attributions. The arched ceiling inside the chamber of Menkaure's pyramid is remarkably similar to what we see here at Lahun. Both chambers have been carved from the bedrock beneath their respective pyramids, then lined with precisely fitted arched granite slabs. And here is another interesting parallel. There once was a precision-carved granite container housed in the chamber beneath the Menkaure pyramid as well, though it's no longer there. These similarities certainly make one wonder about possible connections between these sites, or perhaps some original, functional purpose that required both the specific shape of the chamber and the presence of these remarkably precise granite containers. This brings me to a topic that has generated an enormous amount of discussion recently. The theory that these granite artifacts, and indeed many of the limestone works of Egypt, were created using some form of geopolymer, or ancient concrete technology. I've probably received more than 100 comments asking for my opinion on this theory, or simply stating that this must obviously be how all these incredible works were accomplished. I want to be clear from the start. I'm not saying geopolymer technology is impossible. The theory does have some merit and shows promise, particularly when applied to certain South American sites like where there have been some interesting studies conducted. But I remain quite skeptical about its application to Egyptian monuments. And I think the theory has significant hurdles to overcome before it can be considered a viable explanation. As with any theory that claims to definitively know how these ancient works were accomplished, it needs to address all aspects of the problem and overcome all the challenges the evidence presents. I do hope there will be more legitimate scientific study and experimentation in this area. Who knows? Maybe one day we LLBAB able to buy a bag of aggregate mix that produces material indistinguishable from granite. I have my doubts, but I'm always willing to be proven wrong by solid evidence. Before anyone writes a comment insisting they know exactly how it was done with geopolymers, please hear out the other side of this argument. There are several significant problems with the geopolymer theory when applied to Egyptian monuments. First, we have quarries and unfinished works. In Egypt, we have examples of nearly every phase of stone working, from extraction at the quarry through shaping to the finished product. Some of the best examples are found in the granite quarries at Aswan, where we literally have stones in the process of being shaped and extracted from the bedrock. The most famous example is the unfinished obelisk. But it's not the only stone being worked in that quarry. There are numerous examples of partially carved blocks still attached to the bedrock. If the ancients were simply there to melt stone and collect it for recasting, or to grind it into powder for geopolymer concrete, why would they be carefully shaping these stones out of the living rock? We also have unfinished items in various stages of completion. A good example is the unfinished container in the corridor of the You can clearly see that this piece still requires considerable work to reach completion. What's more, there are actual tool marks visible on these containers, evidence of iron chisels or similar tools being used to shape the stone. We can see the work in progress, and we know there are finished containers elsewhere in the same complex. This pattern extends to limestone construction projects as well. Take the pyramids. For instance, behind the second pyramid at Giza, the Pyramid of Kafir, you can actually see where blocks have been quarried from the hillside. There are square cuts in the ground showing exactly where individual blocks were extracted and then used in the pyramid-esque construction. Second, there's a logical problem with the geopolymer theory when applied to large construction projects. Every stone block is a different shape and size. This applies not just to the internal blocks of pyramids, but to the casing stones as well. Each one has been individually shaped to fit its specific position in the structure. This presents a significant challenge for geopolymer theory because you would need to create a unique mold for every single block. In the Great Pyramid alone, there are approximately 2.3 million limestone blocks. If these were cast using geopolymers, the builders would have needed to create 2.3 million individual molds. It simply doesn't make sense from a practical standpoint. When we use geopolymers in modern construction for bricks and similar applications, we typically use one mold to create millions of identical units. All the blocks are the same shape and size. That's the whole point of casting technology, standardization, and efficiency. The Egyptian monuments show exactly the opposite approach. Each block is unique. Third, we have extensive evidence of tool marks and machining marks throughout Egyptian stonework. We see both what appear to be more primitive tool marks, likely from dynastic Egyptian work, and highly advanced machining marks that I believe come from much earlier periods and represent far more sophisticated technology. If these objects were cast in molds, why do we then see evidence of extensive cutting and shaping after casting? We have examples of massive circular saw cuts at Abu Gharaib, at Abu Sa, and other sites. There are overcuts in granite statues and obelisks, where saws have gone slightly too far into the material and then been withdrawn. We also have those remarkable tubular drill marks that indicate the use of advanced drilling technology. Even at Tiwanaku, a site often cited as evidence for geopolymer technology, you still find machining marks and clear indications that the stone was shaped with tools after any potential casting process. Fourth, the geopolymer theory simply doesn't align with how granite actually works as a material. Granite is a catch-all term for a family of related igneous rocks, and every granite outcropping is slightly different. You have granite, granodiorite, various colors and compositions, each with different levels and types of constituent materials. Granite is essentially a natural aggregate. When you examine granite closely, washing or polishing the surface, you can see the different components clearly. There's quartz, feldspar, mica, hornblende, and various other minerals, all in chunks of different sizes, depending on the specific geological history of that particular granite formation. If the theory is that ancients melted all this material down, how did they recreate these individual lumps of different minerals in the correct proportions and sizes? If they ground the stone into powder, how did they maintain the varying sizes of quartz chunks that we see in the finished objects? We also see clear veining in many granite objects, patterns that form over thousands or millions of years of heat and pressure in the Earth's crust as the material slowly cools. Some of the containers in the Serapeum have large, distinctive veins running through them that could only have formed through natural geological processes over vast time periods. There are objects made from even more complex materials, like conglomerate stone, which contains mixtures of flint, quartzite, and other materials all jumbled together. At Themis, there's what must have been a massive statue. We can see its thumb, and it's clearly made from a conglomerate of different stone types. This isn't something that could be achieved by grinding up material or melting stone and recasting it. The same principles apply to limestone, particularly the limestone of the Giza Plateau. This limestone is sedimentary rock formed from ancient seabed deposits. Throughout the Giza Plateau bedrock, and in the blocks quarried from it, you regularly find seashells and fossils embedded in the stone. These fossils appear both in the natural bedrock and in the individual blocks used in monument construction. These organic inclusions prove that the blocks were quarried from the Giza Plateau itself. But these fossils wouldn't survive if the limestone had been ground up for geopolymer concrete, and they certainly wouldn't be present if the stone had been melted and recast. Finally, there's one particular version of the geopolymer theory that I've heard repeatedly, and it deserves special attention. This is the idea that the ancients created massive solar magnifying glasses, huge lenses that would focus sunlight to melt granite or other stones, creating slurries that could then be poured into molds. There are several problems with this theory. First, if you're using focused sunlight to melt quartz-containing stones to create these giant quartz lenses, how exactly are you melting the quartz to make the lenses in the first place? It's a circular problem. Second, anyone interested in this idea should research just how difficult it is to create the large pieces of glass used in modern telescope mirrors. There are only 1 or 2 facilities in the world that even attempt this work. We're talking about years of careful cooling and years of precision polishing to create large pieces of flat glass, let alone the convex surfaces needed for a functional magnifying lens. The degree of precision required to create a lens large enough and accurate enough to focus sunlight for stone melting represents seriously advanced technology. Apart from the theoretical possibility, there's simply no evidence that such technology existed in ancient times. Look, I want to be clear about something. I'm not saying I definitely know geopolymer technology wasn't used. I genuinely hope there will be more experimentation and research in this area. If solid evidence emerges that proves these ancient works were created this way, I'll be happy to change my position. What I am saying is that there are significant practical and logical problems with the geopolymer theory when you examine the actual evidence at these sites. When you look at the quarries, when you study the geology of the stones themselves, when you consider the tool marks and the construction techniques, it just does unalign with what we expect from casting technology. I encourage everyone to keep an open mind and continue exploring alternative theories. But those theories need to be tested against logic and evidence. They need to account for all the observations, not just the ones that support a particular viewpoint. So where does all this leave us with regard to this remarkable precision container buried beneath the Lahun Pyramid? Once again, I think we may be looking at a case of inheritance, renovation, and reuse an underground structure that could be far older than orthodox history suggests. Once again, we see tremendous technological sophistication in the underground portions of the site, particularly in the tunnel system and the granite chamber with its incredible precision container. And once again, we see relatively low technology construction built on top of these underground marvels. In this case, a mud brick pyramid that's slowly crumbling back into the desert. Can we really say with confidence that the sophisticated work below ground happened at the same time as the simpler construction above? The primary method archaeologists use to date these sites is through inscriptions and artifacts found within them. While Petrie did discover a 12th dynasty limestone stela in these chambers, and that stela is now in a museum, there are no inscriptions to be found anywhere on the granite work itself. Not on the chamber walls, not on the precision container, nowhere. The container was found completely empty, with no evidence it had ever been used for burial purposes. No lid, no contents, no inscriptions claiming ownership or purpose. If I were an ancient Egyptian king and I discovered this profound underground chamber with its remarkable granite container, I might well have claimed it for my own purposes. It's simply human nature. After all, we discovered this site in modern times thanks to Flinders Petrie. We've renovated it and made it accessible. And today we reuse it for our own purposes, not as a tomb, but as a tourist attraction. The parallels are worth considering. So there you have it, a look at what may well be the most precisely crafted granite container ever discovered from ancient Egypt, buried 30 feet beneath a crumbling pyramid in a site that continues to challenge our understanding of ancient capabilities. The precision of this work, measured in thousandths of an inch, represents a level of technological sophistication that mainstream archaeology struggles to explain using the tools and techniques they attribute to ancient Egypt. Whether this represents inherited technology from an earlier, more advanced civilization, or whether the dynastic Egyptians possessed capabilities we haven't yet recognized, remains an open question. What's certain is that this container, sitting in its granite chamber, aligned perfectly to the cardinal points, continues to guard its secrets just as it has for thousands of years. It stands as a testament to human ingenuity and skill. Regardless of when or how it was created, the mystery continues. And perhaps that's as it should be. Sometimes the most profound discoveries are the ones that leave us with more questions than answers, compelling us to keep searching, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what we think we know about our past. But we're not done yet. There's still more to explore, more evidence to examine, and more mysteries to unravel. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video. Bye!